off this planet.
Hi everyone, I'm the Broken Meeple. Win or lose, I'm going to be honest with you, and we finally can actually do a big review of a game. Yeah, it's been a while since anything was really released, shall we say, that warranted a big review, but this one is a big one and a popular one. This is Nippon Zaibutsu, or Zaibatsu, I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it, but this is basically a re-implementation of the original Nippon that came out, I think, like a decade ago or something. It's essentially the same game, it's just got a few rules, tweaks here and there, and a different aesthetic. I mean, certainly the cover looks a lot nicer than the previous one, I can tell you that. Now, this one has a little bit of history with me, so I will preface this going in. I've only played this the once before I got this version, and thank you Patrons for your support. That's the only way I was able to afford this. It's not a cheap game by any means. But this is the sort of deluxe Kickstarter version, so this one is, got the fancy insert and a few extra upgrades in it. But 10 years ago, I was taught the original of this game by Mr. Grogan.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
And this is probably one of his favourite games. I'd be surprised if this wasn't in his top 10 of all time, frankly. And I don't have a lot of memory of the original game, only that I hated it. Yes, I know, don't kill me just yet, but bear in mind, I warmed up to Terraforming Mars. I now have a copy of Great Western Trail New Zealand on my shelf, and I originally hated the first edition of that game. Tastes can change, people change, and 10 years of gaming experience is a long time, and I can't even remember the specifics of what I hated the first time I played the original Nippon. It was that long ago. All I remember is who taught me it and what I felt after I got taught. Maybe there's a correlation. Ha, joking.
Kill him. Kill him now.
But I thought, you know what, let's get back into it again. So clean slate, fresh mind, different taste in gaming at this point, and see whether this one can win me over, because it certainly does look a lot nicer than the other one, at least from the cover. It's an upgraded version, so thank you Patrons again for helping me grab a copy of this one for your support. So I am going into this one with I'm giving it as best a chance as I can, okay? Giving it the beans, both multiplayer and solo, bought the extra, paid the extra to get the deluxe version, so we're doing this as much justice as it possibly can get.
I may be a simple country hyper chicken, but I know when we're finger-licked.
Okay, quite a bit to cover, so I'll summarize it as best as I can. Nippon is basically set around a period in Japan where they were getting sick and tired of, everybody buying overseas goods, so they decided, you know what, we can make our own stuff, take the trade away from them, and everybody will, be prosperous all over again. It's every generic Euro theme you've ever heard with the industrial theme, but hey, it's Japan and Japan's cool. But this one basically has you taking control of one of the businesses, effectively, one of the corps in Japan, and trying to build up a little infrastructure and gain more influence over the different Japanese regions to score, what else? Victory points. So the idea with this is that everybody has a player board where they will have, several tracks that they can level up for income. They will have trains and boats and machines that they can basically build as the game goes on. These start the game basically in their slots, and as you go through the game you'll be able to build these, and the more you build, the more potential endgame scoring there is, and obviously the more stuff you're able to do. But the primary way of scoring any points in this game is done by the map region. So each map has a goods demand tile at random at the start of the game, and it has influence markers suggesting what the overseas companies have. So they all start off in each region with at least 12 influence in that region, so it's like, you got to do a bit of work. But the idea is that as you produce goods and sell them off, you'll be able to place your influence markers in those respective regions, covering the overseas ones up, and that influence will dwindle down and yours will go up.
Merchandising.
But the game arc is essentially 5 rounds plus a free turn extra bit at the end of the game before it officially ends. But those 5 rounds are split into 3 periods, 2, 2 and a 1. And the idea is that at the end of each period there is area majority scoring for the various regions. So whoever has the most influence in the region gets X points, the next person gets Y points, the next person gets Z points, and so on. But the scoring gets higher and higher as the game goes on, with obviously the last period being the most important. But each round carries on until there is a shortage of workers. So all these action spaces up here will have a bunch of workers above them, and they'll come in different colors. The workers themselves aren't different, it's more what bonuses they can trigger, but we'll get onto that later. But basically, when you take your turn, you will take a worker off the action space, you will place it in the bottom of the worker track on your board, and then you will do one of the two actions below it. Now, on the side, there is essentially a queue of workers that will replenish these spaces when they run out. But this will dwindle over time. You can see what's coming, and eventually... actually, I'm not sure you were able to see... Yeah, I think you can just about see that in the camera. But the idea is that when a space runs out of workers, they come off the queue, and sooner or later, you're going to get to a point where there's no more workers left in that queue spot, and the space empties. That's the point when the round ends. Move on to the next round and keep going. Your turn is, as I said, to take a worker and do one of the actions, or to consolidate. Now, the actions are basic actions. I mean, you can build a factory tile, so, wrong tile there. You can build one of these factories. They come in various different guises and different goods. They'll go on your board. They come with a special ability, but they'll also let you produce goods, which is represented by these little crates. You can buy one of those. But you'll also be able to build your boats, build your ships, build your boats, build your trains, build your machines, level up your R&D, which lets you get better factories, level up your coal, which lets you produce more. You know, it's every industrial Euro. You know the score. You know it's right down to the trifecta of, you know, coal, iron, and silk. They're all in this game for some reason. But, you know, the idea is that you must balance out what actions you're doing with how expensive it is to do it, because your board will build up this sort of this column of workers, and the higher you get it, the more rewards you get when you consolidate. Consolidation is basically flooding the workers off and getting some money and getting some other bonuses. But there's a problem. Firstly, you will look at the top and bottom colors that you've got on your, on your sort of like column of workers here, and this will dictate bonuses that you get off your development board, and you can upgrade this by building boats. But there's also another catch. If you have too many classes of workers on your column, it costs you more to employ them, because when you get your income, you've got to spend $3 for every different color you have on your column. So the game is basically encouraging you to focus entirely on 2 different colors. So let's say, I managed to do all my actions using nothing but red and black workers. Okay, great. So that means I've got black worker there, red worker there, black worker there, red worker there, and as a result, it means that I trigger the black and red bonuses, so I get some silk and coal, but it also means I only have to pay a small amount of money because I only employed 2 different colors. But then suddenly, if I ended up with a blue and a yellow in that mix, suddenly I've got to pay 4 different colors rather than 2. It gets pretty expensive. So your actions are not only driven by what you're trying to do on the board and the whole production and emptying your board of stuff, but also by the fact that you've got to pay everybody at the end of the day, and it could get progressively insanely expensive. The actions are, as you would expect, build factories, build trains, build boats, sell to fulfill contracts, which get you little bonuses. There's nothing that you haven't seen before. It's leveling up tracks and building an industry, as you would. So when you get to the end of a period, you score for area majorities. When you get to the very end of the game, which effectively is triggered by a sort of 3-turn warning that you get, so 3 more turns each before the game officially ends, you will score, again, more points for the area majority, but you will also score for elements on your board. So you will score based on favor tokens. Everybody has got a bunch of these little favor tokens, and you unlock them by employing a lot of workers before you consolidate. Depending on how many you employ, the better the favor token. These favor tokens go onto the end of your board at this end, and basically they score victory points for whatever it is you're doing. Build a lot of factories, fulfill a lot of contracts, build a lot of boats. But the better the favor token, the more points they're worth. There's basically like different tiers worth of points, and so it allows you to kind of like customize your scoring a little bit. Like, if I got a game where I'm doing particularly well on trains, well, in that case, my best favor token ought to really go in the train slot, because then I've got all my trains unlocked. That gets me a whopping great big 20 points, instead of say 10 or 5. It's a bit of a jump. So people can customize their scoring on the board how they wish, but the majority comes from the area influence over here. Have your free periods, the free extra turns at the end, culminate all the points, and of course, the one with the most.
Of course!
So we'll start with good aspects. Now, bearing in mind, this is the Kickstarter sort of like, I forget what they call it, but basically the deluxe version of this game. It costs roughly about £15 more than the base version. There's not a huge amount of gameplay differences in there, although annoyingly, the factory tiles that you get, which have these special abilities on, there's twice as many factories in the deluxe version as there is in the base game. I don't like it when games take out content for the sake of a deluxe edition. That's a bit of a faux pas in my books.
In bird culture, this is considered a dick move.
There's a reasonable amount in there in the base set, but I do have a feeling that, particularly if you play this with a lot of players and a lot of these are out, you're going to be glad that you got the deluxe version just to have more factories to play with, otherwise it's going to get pretty stale. You do get some upgraded components. I mean, it is, you've got some very nice dual layer boards. You've got this organizer, which is pretty much essential for the game, I would say. I mean, I hate the fact that I'm recommending you buy the expensive version, but frankly, I think you need it. I don't care about what bag you give the meeples. That's irrelevant. The meeples are still the same. The boards, the artwork's still the same. The main difference is that you have the insert, double the factories, and that's really the two reasons you buy the deluxe version.
It is just that the luxury edition has so much more eagle.
It means that you get a much speedier setup in this version than you do in the base. But it's only a £15 difference, but that means you're taking this into the £75 category as opposed to say 55, 60 quid, and it's like, whew, okay, we are definitely in expensive game territory here. So, yeah, the organizers are nice and everything, and the dual layer boards are nice, but, it's not that hard to do dual layer boards anymore. I'm not sure the game really justifies a 75 quid price tag, but, games are getting more expensive, and it's not made... it's not made to a particular budget. The silk pieces are nice. The little cubes for resources are good and everything. So it's, it's a nice production.
Spared no expense.
The rules and the graphic design are pretty decent going here, actually. I was quite surprised how relatively straightforward this game was to learn. I mean, yeah, you haven't got a shortage of rules in here. There's still plenty of them, but there's a decent amount of pictorial examples in here. The graphic design on the board makes sense. It's clear to see what is excluded for player counts and where spaces are, where the action spaces go and everything. Your dual layer board, it's pretty clear where the bonuses are and everything. So everything kind of makes sense. And you've even got a little player aid to help you with it. Now, the player aid is mostly good. It does tell you what all the factories do, which is good. So you do have a list of all of those handy. You don't have to explain how they work. You can just rely on all the players. An iconography guide, again, I particularly like having the factory tile breakdowns here, where it tells you what elements of the factory tile mean what. That's good. You don't get that on a lot of player guides, and I think it's good that they included it here. The bit where it slightly goes a little bit is when it talks about the effects of some of the actions and that. It kind of summarizes them a little bit too much, where it doesn't necessarily explain it in, crystal clear at times. But it's, again, we're talking minor blemish. Overall, it's a pretty decent aid. The main problems is when it gets to the turn summary. The turn summary, it just, it tells you, oh, do this, do this, do this, but you kind of forget what those things are, or you lose a bit of context in the summarized version on here. It's the one small blemish with the 8. But overall, I'm just glad they gave you an 8 in the first place, because most games will not. And as aids go, it's still on the upper echelon. But the rules themselves are still relatively straightforward. The solo mode is easy to learn, in the late part of the book. You've got 2 modules, late game factories and common goals. They're nice. They don't really change the game up that much, but they're nice to throw in if you want them to. But, when I read through the rules, and I did read through the rules, yes, people have done, playthrough videos and stuff, Grogan included, of course, I think. I didn't really need them, because I read through this word for word, and it's like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. And so it made it a relative breeze to learn, and a relative breeze to teach new players. I didn't find it too difficult to teach most Eurogamers how to play this. So, kudos. It's quite refreshing that a Eurogame doesn't overcomplicate itself too much.
This is light.
The game is also one of the more interactive games I've played. For a Euro, anyway. You've got that aspect of, oh, right, somebody's blocking your spaces, but there's a bit more to it than that. The area majority in this game, the way it works, really does make this game feel like it was designed for 3 to 4 players. I've not played this with 2. I will say I've not played it with 2. I've only played it solo in 3 and 4. But I can't see myself wanting to play it with 2. Because 3 and 4 is just much more interactive on the map. You've got the same amount of influence no matter how many players you have. So it doesn't matter if there's only 2 of you, you've still got to whittle down 12 influence worth of overseas companies. You try doing that with 2 of you, it's insane. But when you've got 3 or 4 of you, all producing different goods per these good tiles, you're actually able to overtake them a bit more, and it becomes more about the competition with other players. It's also the fact that these workers kind of define how this game works. Because if you were to take these workers out, this would be every generic Euro you've ever seen. The same generic theme, the same generic stuff you're doing. These workers make the game, because your decision as to whether you're going to take a worker to do an action that you really need to do, like, I need to do this action, I need to build a machine right now, is, you know, on its own, nothing particularly interesting. But when you combine it with the fact that the worker you take has paramount importance to the bonuses you get on your board, the favor tokens you unlock for endgame scoring, and how much money you're going to pay at the end, that decision space becomes a bit more, oh god, ow, my brain. You know, it certainly makes you think about how important is that action to you versus the repercussions of later on. And that's a good little decision process. It is a little luck of the draw in terms of the meeples, though. I mean, yes, you do see what there are on the board, and you can see the upcoming queue of workers, but if you, for example, finish a round and it's like, look, based on what I've already got on my board, I could really do with some red and yellows coming out, because that's kind of the focus of what I've got here. You know, I have got red and I've got yellows. And then you basically, like, you know, draw a bunch from the bag in order to replenish the worker queue, and all the reds and yellows have disappeared.
Hold on a second. Something's missing.
Well, it sucks to be you. You're going to have a very expensive round at the end. And it's like, well, it wasn't my fault that the red and yellows didn't come out.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
It does have a bit of a double-edged issue with it. But overall, I still like that decision space. That it's not just simply take a worker, whatever, for an action. It's like, no. Because sometimes I might not care too much about the action. Instead, I'm more interested in building up this big column worth of, you know, workers to get a decent favor bonus, you know, and I do find myself doing the favor token thing a bit more than others. But if you've upgraded some of these department bonuses, they can be quite good to trigger if you can get the right colors on the bottom and the top of the column. And as much as I don't think the boat action is particularly great in this game, it's still not bad to do it once or twice for a particular type of bonus that you want to inflate more. I don't recommend like getting all your boats out, because honestly I think that's a pretty weak strategy overall, but the bonuses that you can get from these are quite cool, and again, it influences your decision. So there's definitely a good amount of thinking here, and you do need to plan ahead. This isn't, yes, there is a tactical nature of, you know, grabbing which workers are available, but you still need to think, well, how many turns do I need in order to get to this point when I can actually put an influence star down? And all the while, as I said, this is relatively interactive, so you are still looking at the other players and thinking, right, okay, you're going for this, you're going for that, so you're likely to want these actions soon. You've got nothing but red and white workers there, which means I'm going to have to, like, think about where you're going based on red and white workers. And it's like, well, what workers have we got on the top here? And it's like, there's white here on the one that lets me produce. I need to produce. Are you about to nick the last worker there, in which case we can get some better workers off the queue? Or is it a case of, well, I really need to get an influence star down there before they do? Well, they're going to consolidate because they have to. They've got too many workers here, and unless they're going to, like, spend a ton on income, they're going to consolidate. So that gives me another turn to do something else before I get to that point. So you are influenced by other players. I was very surprised that this one had the interactivity it had. So, you know, hey, we don't get a lot of Euros with that, so I gotta give it credit.
You have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
So, on to some negatives. First off, I mentioned that the production quality was pretty good, and it is. The artwork is pretty generic, though. I mean, the box looks lovely. It's certainly going to stand out on the shelf. Your player board is mostly a bunch of spots, so there's only so much artwork on here. The board is pretty bland. I mean, the map of this region is not particularly, you know, interesting to look at. Everything is all very muted. The factories have got some okay artwork on them, so I don't mind that. But yeah, this isn't really much of a looker on the table. And I remember the original looking excessively bland. This one doesn't exactly look much better. It's just a bit of an improvement. But, you know, oh well. It would have been nice if there was just something a little nicer to look at. But also the theme, as we expect, it's 19th century industry. It's going to be generic and boring as hell regardless. I mean, I don't care if you make this Japan, Antarctica, Amazon rainforest, America, you know, the Timbuktu, whatever. It's still 19th century industry, the trifecta of coal, silk, and iron. And making a factory. I put a factory down, and I make a good, and I ship it and get a bit of influence.
And there was much rejoicing.
The game is also particularly restrictive, and that is not something I like in a Euro game, not when it's too restrictive. This one has you taking a lot of little steps, which you hope would lead to a big turn, a big combo-tastic turn. But it's not. It's a bunch of little steps that you have to do in order to jump through all the hoops to get to the little step later on. This game doesn't reward you with a big fulfilling turn. There's no real sense of game arc here. There's no sense of, you know, oh, that turn was amazing, or I remember that turn, or I remember what you did in this game or anything. It's like, no. It's all little things, which helps with the ease of play. The game is relatively smooth, but it's not that interesting when you put your train down on a spot. It's not that interesting when you put your boat down on a spot. It's not that interesting when you build a factory. I mean, it costs an arm and a leg to build a factory. You get it, and you might have a cool ability going forward, but other than that, it's just, oh, there's me factory. Cool, can I build some goods in it then? Well, you got to do the produce action. Fine, I'll take a worker and do the produce action then. Right, how many goods do I produce? Here you go.
Is that it?
Yeah, 1 good per factory. Every factory produces 1 good unless you spend another, like, mountain of cash to build machines onto it. But I find it's very difficult to even use the machines, really, in this game, because it costs so much money to build the sodding factories and to do everything else, that to be able to afford to build machines, like, it's insane. And a lot of the times, you just simply don't have the resources or money to do anything you want in this game. You always come up short. And it's almost kind of insulting that the game has, on these action spaces, a free X on them, emphasizing that you could potentially do these actions up to 3 times.
You serious?
Good freaking luck with that. You'll be lucky if you can do the action once, maybe twice. 3? Yeah, right. Yeah, you could potentially build 3 trains. All I need is 9 iron, or 15 cash and 3 iron. Yeah, I mean, did I win the lottery recently? Maybe I can do that. No, I can't remember if I've seen anybody do any of these actions 3 times in any of the games I've played. It is that restrictive. Why do they tease you with this? You know, you're lucky if you just do it once. And if you do it once, it doesn't feel that fulfilling. I mean, I want to produce a bunch of goods so that I can sell them off. You want the factories to make a lot of goods and make it feel worthy, but, you know, your factories, you know, I could have 4 factories here, and they produce 1 little box each. In order to fulfill a contract, you need to have 1 good from one place, 2 goods from another, and 3 goods of another. So I need 6 goods to get the decent value out of this contract action. And that implies having 1 box here, 2 boxes here, 3 boxes there. The only way to get more than 1 box to produce on a factory is to put machines down, all of which cost $5 a piece. The game demands a lot from you in order to have, like, a sense of fulfillment. And, you know, if you're the sort of person that wants the game to be so tight and restrictive, you're going to get a decent, you know, like, you're going to get a decent experience here. But if you're someone like me that likes the game to be a little bit more open-ended or a little bit more flexible, you know, particularly with regards to how the worker system works, it's going to rub you the wrong way. Because it's bad enough that it's hyper expensive to get anything in this game, and like really restrictive on the resources. The workers also are, again, a bit of a double-edged sword, because I do like the idea that you've got to take different color workers and build up this little column and get bonuses. That's all cool. The problem is that the workers kind of pigeonhole you into something that you don't necessarily want to do. It's all well and good saying, well, you know, I really want to do this action. But if there's bad workers there, you're screwed. You know, I'm building up yellow and red here. That is what I'm aiming to do. But if the only workers there are grey, black and white, and that's the action I want to do, well, sucks to be you. For someone else, it might be the perfect workers that they need. But for you, it means that if you take this, you've got to lose more income. Well, how much income is that? You only start with an income track of 12. It goes up to 25. I'm not even sure how the hell you're supposed to feasibly get it up to 25. The only thing that really levels it up is a couple of small little bit buffs on your board for unlocking other things, and this action, the one where you're supposed to fulfill contracts. But fulfilling contracts is worth a decent amount of points and other bonuses. The income track is only going to help you so many times in the game, but you need to, again, have like 6 odd goods in order to make this a worthy action to do. You know, why the hell would I want to, you know, how the hell am I supposed to get my income all the way up to 25 with this restrictiveness? It teases you with this thing. And I know you might answer, well, get good. For a lot of players, that's not going to be the case when you're teaching the game to those. You know, this is something that's definitely going to reward more plays, and you will get better at certain things, but man, you know, it's not that one person does so well at the game that they, do really well. It's like, oh yeah, look at my thriving industry. No, it's, sorry for language, but it's basically you won because you did less shit. That was kind of it. Because everybody's in this boat. Everybody's constantly like got no resources and it's like hyper restrictive and the workers there aren't there. But it's just which person got off slightly better. I would like the game to make it feel a little bit more rewarding, not like say, it's like basically going, right, all four of you, one of you is going to win this race. Bang, I've shot all of you in the kneecaps. Right, one of you is going to win this race. One of you will crawl to the end. It's just a case of which one of you crawls over barbed wire a little bit better than the other three. It's like, it's still a painful experience one way or the other.
I can't do this.
And the income you spend on your workers is crippling. I mean, you start off with an income track of 12. It is incredibly difficult to level this up. You'll be lucky if you level it up a few places during the game, and that's only if you build a lot of stuff, okay? Most of the time, it's not even going to increase. So, okay, right, fine. Well, I get about 12 to 15 income every time I consolidate. Okay, that's cool. 15 money sounds like a lot. I mean, it's 6 to buy that, 5 to buy that. That's 2 or 3 things I can do with it. Okay, cool. What are the wages? 3 per color of worker. What? So even if you are lucky enough to have only 2 colors of workers on your board, when you consolidate, that's still $6. You get, if you're lucky, 12 to 14 bucks. 6 of that is gone. The second you've earned some money, it's gone. And that's if you did well on the workers. You get 3 colors on there, that's 9. 4, that is 12. Your entire income can be gone before you even start your next set of turns just because you were unlucky with the workers that came out. Or you were forced to take different colors that weren't particularly good.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Seriously? Does the game's already hyper restrictive. Do I need a sledgehammer to the face that basically tells you, well done for consolidating, mate. You now have no resource or income to do anything with. Well, have fun trying to predict the next bunch of actions. Joy. Fun, I guess.
So you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
The scoring in this game is definitely skewed towards the end, and this is one problem I have with these games where they increase as the game goes on, because you've got basically 2 main things that you're scoring here. The area of influence and the stuff on your board. The stuff on your board is still good to score for, but you will not win the game by doing well on your board. You cannot. If you do bad on the map, you will lose. End of story. Whoever does best on the map will win every single time. Which really does feel like this is more just a means to an end. Like whatever points I get from here is just a necessary evil. This is where all the points lie. This is the core of Nippon. If only it didn't hype so much on the 3rd period. Because the scores increase as time goes on. And if it's less than 3 players, then you end up with like a big massive gap in points, depending on what it is. But the first period is 10-8-6-2. Okay, that seems like an okay amount of points, but your point marker can go to like 100, 200. Doesn't seem like that much. I mean, yeah, 10 is nice, but the differential between the different players is not particularly good, apart from first to last. But then second period, 18, 14, 10, 3. Last period, 26, 20, 14, 4. The differential in the 3rd period is so great that pretty much the 3rd period is the defining, who wins this game. Who wins this game, it's down to the 3rd period. The 1st period might as well not even score you any points. It's literally pointless at being there. For the majority of people, the differential between everybody once you've finished period 1 is going to be so minute compared to your overall score that what was the point in wasting time doing it? 2nd period is definitely useful, but again, it's down to the 3rd period. Every single game has been won by whoever did best in the 3rd period area majority scoring. Everything else helps, but nobody's managed to sort of come away from this by going, I didn't do very well on the 3rd period scoring, but it's okay because I've done some very good stuff on my board here. Doesn't matter, because if you manage to do well on the area map for influence scoring, chances are your board is already in a pretty good state as well. So the differential from here doesn't equate to anywhere near as much as the differential from here.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
And all this can lead to a bit of a, not so much a runaway leader, but certainly I can call the victor before the third period ends. Yeah, because the first period, don't care, whatever, the points are irrelevant at that stage. You get to the second period, and you see the differential at that stage, and you're looking at everyone's board, it's like, I got a pretty good suggestion that you're going to win this based on what you've got out and how you're doing on the influence scoring so far. And lo and behold, I'm usually correct. You know, it tends to be the person that I call. And so the end of the game feels a little anticlimactic. And I would have preferred if there was just a bit more of a catch-up mechanism or something that said, you know what, you don't have to do crazy well on this because you could make it up on that board. But it doesn't. The game tells you that if you don't do well on this period 3 bit, you're going to lose. End of story. Just a little bit more flexibility would have been nice, you know, a little bit more open-endedness with the scoring. It's just very much like, you know, one route, one game arc, every single game. No game feels different. Every game plays out the same amongst all the players. And so, you know, when you play, like, let's say 5-6 games in a week, you can't differentiate between the 5 or 6 games because all of them just do the same thing.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
The solo mode. Well, I was keen to learn this solo, so that was the first way I played this. Learned the rules and then learned the solo mode and then got cracking on. The solo mode, I gotta give it credit, is a very easy solo mode to learn. There is not that many rules to learn on top. Once you get the hang of how the AI works with this influence marker map, it gets a lot more quicker. You know, that bit takes a little bit of fiddliness. But piloting the AI is stupidly simple because there isn't really an AI to speak of. It's just basically a bunch of little action tiles that you flip over, and as you flip one, it takes a worker from a specific spot. Most of the time, that is it. That is all the piloting you do. It's only when it does trains and influence markers that it changes things up a bit. It will put a train out, and it will basically count as influence regardless. It will put things out on the influence map based on whether it's going to beat you as a result. So, okay, cool. We have a nice easy solo mode. There's no AI to speak of. It's beat your own score. I would have preferred a proper AI mode, but you know what? I'll take a beat your own score if it's fair. Yeah, about that. This is one of the most unfair AIs I have come across.
I must break you.
Because this thing is, like, so cheaty it's unreal. You know, because you are basically having workers taking off here. That's fine. That's what a multiplayer game would be. Workers disappear and you've got to think about what you're doing. But the scoring, to do well, is based on the area majority. As I said, this is the key to the game. In a 2-player game, the point differential between like first, second, and third, bear in mind the overseas companies can win a slot, is quite extreme. The AI doesn't have to jump through any of the hoops you have to put an influence marker down. You're there struggling to get a factory down, find the money to produce one single solitary stupid box to put it on the map so you can put down, if you're lucky, a 1, maybe a 2-star on a spot. And what happens is when the AI gets to do it, it literally just takes, in turn order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, depending on what period it is, the next token and shoves it down where it can beat you. That is it. It doesn't care about money, doesn't care about resources, and it automatically picks the spot that you are currently beating it at, right? So in period 2, I'm barely able to get any boxes produced, and I'm lucky if I can produce a 2 or 3 if I'm handy, and it can just basically go, ah, it's my turn now, 4, boom, there it is. I'm overtaking you. Have fun with that. Oh, by the way, I also built a train there, which means that counts for 2 influence, so I'm on 6, you're on 3. Yeah, have fun with that. Okay, well, hang on, I'll build a different one then. I mean, I can build a 3 over here, so that's not too bad. I can build a 3 there, that's good. Right, and AI's turn, right? I flip the tile, I can put 5 down there now. Jesus. I mean, it literally just basically owns you on the map to the point where it is just not fun. It is horrifically unfair and demeaning to have the AI basically instantly, after you put something down, after jumping through about 3 or 4 different hoops and turns and actions in order to get to that point, for it to just basically go, flip a tile, down, done, I'm beating you.
Just give us a fucking chance, you son of a bitch!
The AI is playing on beginner mode now, and it wouldn't be so bad if the beat your own score bit was actually fair. Because in the game, all you have to do is beat 1, 2, or 3 objectives, depending on the difficulty mode. And that difficulty will not only say that you must achieve certain goals, but you must also like make the AI do more actions about trains and influence maps. On the harder difficulties, this game is so impossible to reach the bottom tier of the scoreboard, it's insane. Even on easy difficulty, it is insane to get to the bottom tier of the scoring. The beat your own scoring rankings are just sick. They are so high that it's nigh on impossible to get to a scoring ranking unless the stars aligned for you. In terms of what workers came out, in terms of what the action tile order was when the AI just happened to do its thing. It really does rely on a ton of stuff to go in your favor just to reach the bottom of the ranking.
The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
That's not fun. And the goals are meaningless. You know, one goal might be to build all your boats. Cool. And here's another goal. Build all your trains. It's not really a goal. It's just, right, that's my strategy for the game then. You know, I have decided that here I'm playing solo. Right? What are my goal tiles? Boats and trains. Well, I guess that's the strategy I'm doing then. Okay, let's flip some more. Income, track, and coal. Okay, well, I guess that's my strategy for this game. It's like, so the goal tiles are easy to achieve, but they also are basically dictating what you're going to do in the game. You don't get a choice. You must do those things or you lose. And then you get to the end of the game after the AI has butchered you in the point scoring on the area majority 3 times in a row because it can do so much more influence markers than you can physically do in any game, regardless of its solo or multiplayer. And then it basically laughs at you while it laughs and dismembers you while you collate the score and realize that you don't even meet the bottom ranking. I mean, Lacerda games, eat your heart out. This is just downright evil. You know, if you're going to imagine that, you know, the Lacerda games are just like, you know, supervillain type evil in terms of the beat your own score ranking, this is Evil Dead levels of evil. This is stupidly insane. Which makes the solo mode not only not as fun as the multiplayer experience, because frankly you really do need the players to interact with you on the map and be in the same restricted boat as you in order to get enjoyment out of the game, but then it just is an unfair AI that is ridiculously hard. It's like, what is it with Eurogame designers being unable to design a difficulty mode right? And these are the same people who brought out Asian Tigers. Yeah, you remember that one? The one I gave a 3 out of 10? Uh-oh. But yeah, you know, on that one it wasn't exactly easy to beat that one either. It's just, for crying out loud, there's something to be said about having an accessible level in your solo modes. But after I played the solo mode a few times, I was like, alright, I am done. I have learned it, I've given it the beans. This is a waste of time. I'm never bringing out the solo mode in this again. If you're interested in this game because it's got a solo mode, walk away now. Unless you are an absolute masochist.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised.
So did Nippon win me over? I think you can guess the answer to that. No, it didn't. But is it a terrible game? Is it a bad game? No, that'd be unfair. That's not. There are some good bits here. But I do have to preface the cost of the game for some of those. You know, the production quality is good. The artwork is bland as hell, but the production quality is good. But in order to get that production quality, you've got to pay a minimum £55 for this game, you know, 70-something, 75 if you want to get like the proper deluxe version. And that would at least give you the decent setup time and enough factories so that there is at least some replay value in this game. Because without it, you really don't have that much at all. But you're asking a £75 price tag for this. That's a lot of money for a game that doesn't have a lot of replay value, is hyper restrictive, hyper punishing, has a solo mode that frankly does not work, you know, and it is just the same every game, you know, it feels the same and doesn't feel like it feels super dry both in theme and in fun factor. I do like the worker mechanic for the most part. Yes, I do think you're a bit too hyper dependent on what workers come out in order to actually do well in this game, but I do like the thinky decision between taking a worker for an action but also what it will do on your board. That is still cool and fun and fulfilling. And I gotta give props that the game is relatively straightforward to learn for a game of this type. I mean, you've got a 90% pretty good player aid here. The rules are easy to read and easy to teach, so this was not difficult to get other players to play it. And also it's got more interactivity than a lot of Euros. You know, you are caring about what others are doing, where they're going to be on this map, and when they think they might take workers, and when they might consolidate, you know. So again, I gotta give props on that front. But most people, when I've played this with them, we've had one or two, you know, that have said, oh, I really enjoyed this one, where can I grab a copy? I presumably they've now gone and bought it, so happy days. But a lot of people came from this either disliking it or just being kind of meh. And I'm definitely more in the sort of meh category, maybe leaning more to dislike. But a lot of people just sort of thought it was a little bit too restrictive, and I was like, I got like taken out of the game by the halfway mark, and there wasn't really much I was doing that was fulfilling. And it's like, I wanted to do lots of cool stuff on my board, but it really is about period 3. And a lot of people just came right with stuff they really liked, which agreed with a lot of the stuff I like, but also a lot of negatives. And some I disagreed with, some I agreed with, but, there was definitely an even mix. For a £75 game, the bad outweighing the good to this extent does make me concerned. I mean, the solo mode's really bad. I really didn't like that. This game really needs 3 to 4 players, so 2-player, does not interest me in the slightest. It's hyper restrictive, it's hyper punishing at times. You don't feel like you're taking big turns or fun turns. You're just doing a little bit each every now and again to get to another little bit, which doesn't feel like you've achieved anything. So it feels as dry as the theme is, and we have done this theme to death. Can we seriously move on? It's gonna be the game of the year for a lot of people, but I don't get it. I mean, if this is what is gonna be game of the year, then I'm in for a dark time indeed for the rest of this year trying to find a game that good. But, it's 10 years old. I didn't like it great 10 years ago. I was hoping it would improve enough. I hope this was to be another like Great Western Trail New Zealand, where it's like, cool, the changes you've made in this re-implemented version are going to be it. And 10 years of experience, I'm going to change. It's going to be a game that I'm going to love. Come on, let's do this. I gave it enough plays, and it just hasn't done it. It's a toss-up, but I'm going to have to be tough love and give this one a 4 out of 10. I was tempted by a 5, an average game, because it does get a few things quite right, but I'm asking for £75 for this game to get a game just to have a little bit of replay value and a half-decent setup. It's not a small amount of money. I mean, thank you, Patreons. But the bad outweigh the good for me. As much as I do like some aspects of this, it's not a game that I feel like I want to come back to and play. Like, I have played it a decent amount recently, and I feel like I'm done. I don't... a 5 out of 10 would be an average game where it's like, if you want to play it, I'll probably play it. Sanctuary was a 5 out of 10 for Ark Nova. I would still play that game. It's just a lesser version of its bigger brother. This one, though, if it's going to be the choice on the table, chances are I would make most attempts to play something different. This one has kind of exhausted everything it can possibly give me. All the different variety, all the little variety bits in this game, exhausted. The game art, the same every single time now. It's just a case of how crap can I do in this game, compared to everybody else who's also doing crap. It's not a great feeling. So I gotta give it tough love. 4 out of 10. Sorry.
You're going to burn in a very special level of hell.
So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you, for some reason, like this video, given that I've taken your game of the year and given it a 4 out of 10, then by all means like it on YouTube and like it on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the page. Thank you to the Patreons who helped make this video possible, because if it wasn't for your support, I wouldn't be able to afford this game in the first place. So maybe that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. But, I'm glad for your support. I really appreciate it. It's the one thing that keeps this channel going, and, it enables me to get these games, give them a fair shout, and give you my honest thoughts. Whether or not you agree with them is down to your opinion, but I'm going to tell you honestly what I think of the game, whether you like it or not. By all means, get it down in the comments. I'm sure a bunch of you are going to disagree with a bunch of these thoughts. Hey, if you love this game, go ahead. Love it. Please do. Please love it. Give it Game of the Year and enjoy it, because it is still nice that there is something for everybody. This one just wasn't for me. But let me know your comments below. Did you have good experiences with this? Do you have bad experiences with this? Do you prefer this to the old version? Is the old version now like a lesser thing compared to this? I'd be interested to know, particularly comparisons between the two, because I can only go on so much for that. Did it change the game dramatically from the one 10 years ago? That'd be interesting stuff to read. But until next time, assuming that I'm still alive by the time the next video comes out, I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video. So take care, everyone. Bye for now.